I still have the barrel I saved from the fire that never was. In 1976, before my grad year at Berkeley, I took a summer job as a draftsman at the Vulcan Iron Foundry in Oakland. Built in 1929, the foundry needed extensive and expensive improvements to meet OSHA health and safety regulations. Their company president and their 3 VPs, sales, engineering, and operation, each took big bank loans to fund the fixes. A gamble, since overseas competition had caused a cutback to only one production shift. Most of the big fixes were completed prior to my hire. I would do drawings for smaller fixes like covers for sand mixers and exhaust systems for grinders. First day, and the engineering VP shows me around the front offices, and then the operations VP gave me a tour of the foundry. He was nicknamed the Bull for how he bossed the 70 men who worked the iron. We walked out of the offices onto the dirt floor of the foundry, a jumble of old warden structures spreading half the city block. A forklift rumbled by, and a slab of iron propped against a nearby pillar shook, rocked, and toppled towards us. I reached forward to push it back and was yanked backwards. A half-ton of iron clanged on the floor, and every worker stopped and turned to look to see what had happened, and they saw the Bull with his hand still on my belt, having just saved me from injury or death. Falling metal. You know, no one hassled me that whole summer because they all saw the Bull had protected me. Falling metal, scorching furnaces, splattering molten iron, hazardous equipment with unprotected moving parts. I watched my step, often moving around the foundry to sketch and measure. I mostly stayed in my office up on the second deserted floor. Sometime in July, I needed to get on the roof to see where to place an exhaust vent. A hatch near my office accessed the attic. From the attic, I squeezed through a window and clambered up onto the roof slopes. On my descent, I saw the attic was mostly empty except for an old wooden barrel set next to an open electrical panel where wires connected terminals and relays. Getting closer, I saw the barrel was packed with oil-soaked rags. Thinking one spark from the panel and this whole place goes up, woof, in flames. I shoved the barrel back about 10 feet, climbed down the ladder, washed my hands, and got back to my drawings. One afternoon, several days later, I headed to the roof to take some more measurements. I climbed into the attic and saw the barrel full of oily rags next to the electrical panel again. The epiphany. There was no equipment anywhere remotely nearby whose maintenance would generate any oily rags, so somebody had carried them there and tried to make this not look like arson. The workers wouldn't want to fire. Like me, they needed their paycheck. The culprit had to be one of the bosses planning on a big fire insurance payout to wipe out those big bank loans. I made my plan. Fortunately, that late, no one was around. I grabbed the metal waste can from my office and I made several treks from the attic to the big trash bins out behind the factory to get rid of all those rags. I next found a rope and I lowered that now empty barrel through the access attic hatch down to the second floor and then over a balcony rail down to the first floor. I rolled the barrel to the woodworking bay and I went home. Next day, I brown bagged lunch with the office staff. I mentioned I'd found an old wooden barrel in the attic, and if no one objected, I'd clean it up on my own time and use it as a table at my apartment. One of the bosses remarked there was a lot of crap laying around that needed to be cleared out. Another one said, okay, on your own time. 2 weeks later, I carted the barrel back to Berkeley in a friend's car, a little bit of sandpaper, brush, and stain. Voila, a side table for my apartment. September. My last week at Vulcan before going back to grad school. And the bosses called me in. The company president said they appreciated my work and were happy with the results. The VP of engineering asked if I could work part-time during school. The sales VP gave me a big grin. And the operations VP, the bull, he's got a small, thin smile. And his eyes are cold, glowering embers. And I know who arranged that barrel full of rags. And I know the foundry was no longer as safe for me as it once was. I declined, said I had too many classes. Vulcan closed several years later and was converted to lofts and studios for artists. The front office is now a gallery called the Inferno. Unintended irony, given it's the locale of the fire that never was. Thank you.